Welcome to Beyond the Shelf with Dave Feinlieb. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. We publish new episodes every Tuesday morning, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Dave Feinlieb.
For any brand out there, expanding your Amazon presence is one of the many goals when it comes to e-commerce. From content to keywords and the return of the marketplace, my guest today has his finger on the pulse of it all. Not only is he an expert in the Amazon and e-commerce space, he's also partnered with us at It's Rapid for over a year. Please welcome my friend and colleague and Chicago local, Chris Barnes. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dave. It's been a long time coming. I'm excited to be on.
Now, we met, I should tell our listeners, back in the Syndigo and Content Analytics Day, and in a big way have you to thank for a great outcome there. So thank you for that.
It was all you, Dave. I was just in the right place at the right time.
Modest as always. Let's get into e-commerce now. Jungle Scout, tell us about your current role and maybe a little about the company.
Yeah, so Jungle Scout's been around for 10 years. Some people may or may not know that. We actually just celebrated our 10th birthday just early in February. We were known for all those emerging and challenger brands that were trying to start their business on Amazon. So think about if you or I were trying to come up with our own kind of side hustle to sell coffee or picture frames or candles or things like that. And that's how the company started. The founder, Greg Mercer, decided to come up with a great idea of how to really educate sellers and brands to get started and really navigate the waters of Amazon. And so that's kind of emerged into a very, very large business. And so that's a little bit about Jungle Scout. As we think about the next evolution of us, we are really trying to make sure we resonate our message and really understand what those middle market and enterprise brands, let them know that we can support them as well too. And that's really the big focus for us in the coming months ahead of here.
What are some of the big use cases where I'm a mid-market brand, I come in, I want to use the Jungle Scout product? How would I use it in my day-to-day e-com business?
Yeah, there's a couple different ways. First and foremost, the space on Amazon is just super crowded. Brands, they all have some type of forecast that they're trying to drive growth on Amazon. Yeah. And whether they're losing share or gaining share, they got to respond to why. And one of the things that Jungle Scout can really shed some light on is the reasons behind that. We have great model data that looks at sales estimates, whether that's at the category level, the brand level, the ASIN level, or even the seller level. Mm-hmm. So we can start dictating and sharing with these brands and sellers and even retailers that are third parties around what's happening in their category. So that's one reason. The other major reason that people come to us is they want to understand what innovation looks like in their space. What brands are driving innovation? What new products are coming out? What new packaging or pricing or just content is out there that we should be looking at? And so that's another use case. The biggest ones that we see though are around 3P. The 3P seller space is just enormous, and it sometimes could be the wild, wild west. So people need to get a handle on their supply chain and 3P sellers, as well as really need to understand what's happening from the consumer behavior and understanding keyword trends. So those are some of the major use cases for why people find Jungle Scout.
Lot to do. I've always been impressed with the company's content. When you search online, you're searching for something on Amazon or maybe some keyword insights, so you get the Jungle Scout info. And I can imagine that that's led to a lot of new customers over the years who are looking for answers and then learn about this and then of course, try out the product.
Yeah, it's been good and bad. And I'll tell you the good reason is, yes, people do know who Jungle Scout is, but they know Jungle Scout from the prior 9.5 years. And it's a lot of those dreamer brands or emerging brands, but they've also grown up a lot of those brands. So that's a good thing that they keep coming back to us as an industry resource around all things Amazon. So we have that going for us. But we also really want to make sure people just don't associate us with those small brands, and that we can support big brands, big retailers, and support them, in the same capacity we support the smaller brands. So you'll see a big transformation happening from Jungle Scout here in the next couple of weeks, even on our website, on how we educate and talk to our potential prospects.
Love it. Now, when we met each other, you were at Syndigo. I was heading up content analytics. Talk to us a little about the space. What's different now? What's similar? How's the space evolved since you first started working in it?
Yeah, I think we met in September 2018, for the record. It was at Grocery Shop. So it's been, almost 6 years? Yeah. And I certainly see the space change, not only in the terms of just how brands and retailers interact with each other, the emergence of marketplaces and how critically important that was and now is. Just look right now, Best Buy just coming out. They're coming back with marketplace after they shut theirs down. Lowe's just launched one. You have Temu and Shein and all these other guys merging. Those players did not exist several years ago. Even 2 years ago, a lot of those players didn't even exist. And so that's one big ultimate shift that's happening. Others, you see this emerging of digital and physical retail media. Coming back from my Numerator days or Market Track days where I was before Syndigo, we always looked at promotional activity, right? What was happening in store, the circulars and the coupons you used to get in the mail when people actually used to look at their mail. And so that has certainly changed as that kind of morphs together and people are looking at more of that digital and physical and how that comes together. I mean, that was a major theme that we certainly heard at NRF this year too, was around meeting your shopper wherever they are. And I think that's the biggest shift that we've seen happen in this space.
So let me parse apart two parts there. One is where's the shopper? The other is marketplace. Let's start with the shopper. So you mentioned this idea that really that we could be meeting the shopper anywhere. How do I take my tool set and kind of leverage that and do better in store and also be really present in the right ways online?
Yeah, I'll start with the second one because I think certainly the two should kind of speak to each other, right? You can't have a disjointed or create some friction for the shopper because many times they're in store and then they go onto their mobile device and look for an alternative item or something at a different location or a different store or a different retailer. And so the two, first and foremost, need to kind of marry each other to a degree or can't be too off. So, when we look at the online space, really speaking to your shopper around same type of promotions, you need to have very similar assortment. Like, yeah, there's a lot of retailers out there that sell more online than they do in store, but at least offer those same type of selections, same type of promotions, same type of incentives to get that shopper to not leave your location or leave your site. So that's one thing is just making sure that you have that cohesive storytelling going on, right? But I mean, if you think about the in-store, retail media is changing dramatically in store. Think about like cooler screens and the offers and the personalization that's happening in store. That is drastically changing how brands are thinking about winning their shopper even online. What offers actually resonate? Is it price? Is it promotion? Is it content? Is it, some type of other innovation or, brand recognition that's driving the needle? And that really should dictate to how they earn and look at their audience online too.
Yeah, this is great. Now, if we flip over to Marketplace, first of all, tell us, what does that look like? You mentioned some retailers bringing back Marketplace. They had it maybe in the past. They didn't. They kind of wasn't part of the offering. Now it's back. What's going on there that's accounts for this sort of reemergence in the interest of this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, well, one, we have the political storm that's happening in the U.S., obviously with the tariffs, right? And I think people are being a little bit more cognizant of what sellers they bring on to their marketplace. We've heard a lot of the retailers that we work with are saying, "Hey, we only want sellers that have a origin in the U.S. or their primary business in the U.S. or it's an invite-only marketplace." And so you've seen a lot of that, but certainly we had that really big kind of emergence of Temu, and everybody was really stoked and excited about them. TikTok shops, right? Everybody was really pumped about them. That is kind of tapered off a little bit. It was a very much of a hype, but you're seeing the reemergence of places like Etsy or eBay. Walmart is continually to put a big focus on their 3P marketplace. You have Lowe's that just relaunched a marketplace over the last couple months. You have Target Plus. Like these retailers see it as an opportunity to make sure that they become a destination for all items or as many items as possible, whether that's through drop ship or just finding just assortment growth opportunities in general. So that's where we're seeing a huge trend and a huge spike in the importance, both on the retailer side, but the brands just they want to have their product exposed in as many places for the shopper.
So I'm a brand. I'm a mid-market, maybe about to be a large brand. I'm 1P today. I'm thinking about marketplace. What should I be thinking about?
One, how crowded is this space, right? And is there a desire for your products? If you go to some of these categories, I think I was just looking at a tool company the other day, and they had 2,000 sellers selling on Amazon of their products. I don't know about you, but if I'm a mid-size or even an enterprise brand, that is a daunting task to even understand. Are they authorized? Are they unauthorized?
Right.
Are they selling my product at a really low price and hurting my brand, perception and reputation? And so if you're starting that, you really need to understand how crowded this space is and really make sure you have that authorized program put in place and have a tool or resource to make sure that you continually have a pulse on what's happening, what sellers are emerging. Is there other brands that are shifting their majority of their sales to 3P versus 1P? And so we've actually seen that quite a lot, especially in the beauty space right now. A lot of brands are really starting to move over to more of a 3P model.
Great insight. So we've got the in-store and digital. We've got reemergence of marketplace. Retail media, as you mentioned, is another big investment area for brands, and certainly a huge opportunity for retailers. What are you seeing in that area?
Yeah, so I think if you look back a couple years ago, right? Again, going back, retail media was started, and the inception was in physical stores.
Yeah,
I think when I first started hearing about retail media, people were like, we'll figure out if it's a right place for us to invest in. And then they said, well, we've got to play, right? It's got to be a pay to play. So we've got to at least do something in the retail media space. And so they had very, very finite budgets to allocate to retail media. And then all of a sudden you saw all these retail media networks just blossom and emerge. And you had all these tools that could help you manage that. And people are like, well, I don't have the money or the budget to do it at all. So I need to understand, if I have a finite budget, how do I get the most out of that budget so that I can show my chief customer officer or my finance team or whoever it is that we're driving the right growth results based on these marketing spend. And so that was kind of the first step. And now you're starting to see people say, well, I can drive automations and I can help you optimize that. And I think the word optimization has been overused. And I also think the word incrementality has been overused, but I don't think there is a great new word for it yet.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think people are saying, I know I need to do more with less, and I need to figure out how do I drive some efficiencies in all the manual work it requires to take on all these retail media networks. And maybe I can't participate in all of them, but which ones do I really want to make sure I know that my shopper is going to? And so when they come to that destination, they think about my brand and my products first.
This episode of Beyond the Shelf is brought to you by It's Rapid. It's Rapid is the platform Pepsi, Mondelez, Instacart, and hundreds of other leading brands and retailers use to build personalized content at scale. Whether that's images, videos, or product descriptions for their product detail pages, shoppable videos or banners for their digital ad campaigns, or sell sheets for sales enablement, brands that use It's Rapid are able to produce high-quality, on-brand content on average more than 80% faster than category competitors. To find out more, please visit itsrapid.ai.
So a shameless plug for It's Rapid here for our listeners. We help brands create media and content across all of these different product detail pages and retail media networks. If we zoom out a little bit, I'm a brand. How should I be thinking about my investment? I have Amazon, Walmart, of course, but I've got a whole set of retailers I could be investing in. How do I put those dollars to work?
Yeah, I would say, and again, kind of a shameless plug for Jungle Scout, right? We use what's happening on Amazon as a very good benchmark, but also signal data for what people should be doing in other channels as well, right? What a brand or even what a category is doing, or what the activity that's happening within that category or subcategory in Amazon. A lot of the brands that we work with say, great, we're going to execute that on Amazon and we're going to replicate that in the next channel that we want to go into, whether that is a Walmart, whether that is a Chewy, whether that is a Dollar General, whatever the case may be. They're using that strategy to say, we understand the consumer behavior. Now let's go make sure that we maybe tweak it based on the demographics or the kind of shopping behavior in those platforms, understanding, the consumer a little bit better. But they're at least using the Amazon strategy as a good benchmark for how they should be, growing their business in those other channels too.
So you don't have to answer this one, but will we be seeing a Jungle Scout offering on Walmart, Target, Kroger, some of these other platforms?
We've been asked that a lot, Dave, and we have made a very conscious effort to go an inch wide and a mile deep on Amazon. We want to be known as the Amazon experts. There is enough green space for us to help all these brands and 3P sellers across Amazon. And when we think about Amazon, we think about Amazon US, we think about Amazon EU5, we go into some Asia markets and some Mexico and Canada. And so we feel like there's such opportunity there to just be the Amazon experts with the thousands and millions of brands and sellers that are trying to establish themselves on that platform. For the time being, we're going to be just Amazon experts.
Love it. Focus always wins. So I'm a big fan of that. Now, a lot of the news lately has been around agent-based AI. We've got Rufus. We've got other ways of searching now. How are you seeing brands think about kind of keyword optimization for today and then some of these new search interfaces going forward?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, right, if you think about what's happening even on the listings of a lot of these products, right? You see Amazon starting to either clean it up manually with their team that's offshore. You see them starting to make some recommendations. Recently, early in this year, they kind of put a mandate to brands that they had a deadline where they had to clean up their listings or else they were going to do it on their own behalf. But as you start thinking about the other types of AI that's being used, and we use a lot of AI on our side as well, too, to drive a lot of the automation, there still has to be a human element to it, as in all AI, right? What's the saying right now is that you're not going to lose your job to AI, but you're going to lose your job to potentially somebody who is using AI. And so we're seeing a lot of people look at, well, what are the keywords, right? Well, we'll investigate and find what are those keywords or phrases or terms that we should be investing in. And then let's put the right AI and automation in place to say, stop a campaign if it's not working. Or, reallocate my campaign budget to a certain time of the day or day of the week or a different product, or, lift it up or down based on the demand of the market. And so that's where we see a lot of AI in our space being extremely beneficial, because if you have a catalog, you've even 50 products or 100 products, that is a daunting task if you have to do that on Amazon and several other different channel partners.
Well, Chris, these are great topics. I could have you on for multiple episodes on them. I'd love to take a kind of zoom out, ask you about how you got your start in the space and where it all began.
Yeah, so I got my start, I would say, going back to my numerator days. I was on the sales front. I wanted something a little bit more challenging. And so I was working with my CEO at the time, and we were looking at some M&A opportunity to get into the e-commerce space. We did more promotional activity at Numerator at the time, and we got into e-com, and we got into pricing intelligence and dynamic pricing and map monitoring and brand protection. And we were dabbling in some digital shelf tools. And I just got really excited about that. And we made 4 different acquisitions in that space and a couple different private equity turns. And as Vista bought us in, I want to say it was about 2017, a couple of us said, let's go find another market to be disrupt. And we actually went into the content space, and we went to Gladson, who had just gone through a private equity turn. And we took Gladson from, probably a $10 million company based in the western suburbs and a really old, stodgy office to, 6 years later, 1,000 employees worldwide and, 5 or 6 different countries. We had grown by 15x. We had made 13 acquisitions. And so that was really my start of getting into this space of really understanding go-to-market strategies, corporate development, and just using my knowledge around e-com to really kind of figure out how all these companies come together and what's the power of going to one solution versus multiple different solutions that these brands and retailers had to go to.
Great insights. If you had some rules for the road on go-to-market, whether it's for the entrepreneur or the senior executive, someone working on their Amazon listings, what's the playbook?
Oh gosh, yeah. And actually, I started thinking about if I should write a book or a playbook on this, and maybe we can co-author one at one point. But I think first and foremost, you got to think about the end consumer first, right? Like, who do you want to speak to?
Yeah.
What is your product's differentiation against that category in general? And then how do you showcase it? And that could be in your product content, in your imagery. It could be in how you really, promote yourself. What price point do you want to be at? Because there's a lot of products out there. And so just starting with that as the foundational kind of North Star is where I tell a lot of brands, even the ones that I've consulted with in the past, is to start. And then, you don't need a full team. You don't need an agency potentially right out of the gate. You need some people that really intimately know e-commerce and how to get started. And that could be on Shopify. It could be on Amazon. It could be on eBay. It could be on TikTok shops, whatever the case, or direct to consumer. But you intimately need to know how do you promote your product and how do you, resonate to the end consumer.
Easy to talk about, so hard to do. Got to have the right tools. Chris, we've been working with you now on It's Rapid. Tell us a little about what you're excited about that keeps you interested in the It's Rapid platform and opportunity.
Well, just being in the content space in general, right, is you think about the amount of effort and work it takes to create any type of content, any type of marketing material. It is a daunting task. And I did dabble at a brand for a short time and learned firsthand all the hoops that brands have to go through, whether that is through legal or just creative. And you lose time. When you lose time, you lose money at the same time, right? And so getting stuff out into the market quickly, and this was prior to any AI or any type of kind of automations like that, it's just an enormous and overloading task for these brands, regardless if you have 5 products or 500 products, just getting that out in the market. And so I get really jazzed up, listening to what It's Rapid is doing in the market, because they're giving that time back to the internal teams, and they're giving, really great creative ideas around what the retailers want and what the consumers are potentially going to respond to better. And so that alone is just what really excites me about It's Rapid, and just kind of the partners that you've established in this space that, are experts on content syndication or measuring the performance of this content. And so to me, that's kind of what really excites me, Dave.
Well, Chris, thanks for that. We're excited to be partnering with you. I've got a couple of fun, rapid rundown questions for you. The first of which is, what are the most searched terms?
Yeah, so I looked up this recently, and actually, if you look at the top search terms in the year so far, iPhone, iPad, Crocs, coffee, Legos, and supplements for weight loss.
All right. Those are a great list right there. The last product you bought on Amazon and why?
So I looked up my last order. My last order just yesterday was Method, which is like the body wash for my teenage son because he needed some body wash. I got a hat repair kit to wash all my hats because I sweat. And then new Titan goalie gloves because my son has a soccer tournament this upcoming weekend.
Amazing. Those are great.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is a return aspect of all this purchasing, of course. What's the last product that you returned to Amazon and why?
Personally, I avoid conflict like the plague, even when it comes to returning items. So I personally don't return items. I make very concerted efforts that if I'm going to buy something, I want it. But my wife just returned a pair of New Balance shoes just this past week.
All right. Well, we'll hope there's a new set on the way back over to her.
Yep.
So
I think there's a box outside my front door right now.
That's just waiting for you.
Yeah.
All right. And now when you get some time out of work, if you do get some time away, what do you like to do? What are your favorite hobbies?
I live at soccer games and my daughter's dance competitions and free time really is just not something in my vocabulary. I feel like I'm a glorified Uber driver since I have a soon-to-be 13 and 15-year-old. But when I do get downtime, I am extremely passionate about golf, as you can actually see in my background with all my golf flags.
See it. Love it. Chicago resident, how do you survive the cold months?
A couple things. One, a good Helly Hansen jacket, some gloves, a pair of LL Bean boots, probably a lot of booze, and making a good fire.
Those are a great recipe right there. And last but not least, the best spot for deep dish.
I'm probably going to insult a lot of listeners here, Dave, but I grew up right outside New York City in New Jersey. And so I actually think Chicago pizza does not hold a candle to any New York style pizza. But in Chicago, if anybody's in Chicago, I think the best pizza is a Parlor Pizza. And they actually have a sausage pizza named the Abe Froman from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I like it. The Abe Froman Parlor Pizza. We feel like we should include that in the show notes just so we can have all the right content here.
Shameless plug for Parlor Pizza. I love it. Maybe you have a future sponsor in your cards here.
That could be the one. I like it. This is great. So, Chris, we covered all sorts of great topics, everything from Amazon, Jungle Scout, of course, Marketplace, which I think is a super interesting area. And if our listeners want to find you online, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so a couple ways. One, look up my LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So just Chris Barnes at Jungle Scout or Chris Barnes at junglescout.com is another way to get a hold of me. Otherwise, you can find Jungle Scout at a lot of the different trade shows, whether that is Shop Talk, Prosper, Unboxed, or any of those upcoming industry events as well.
Fantastic. Chris Barnes with Jungle Scout. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me here on Beyond the Shelf.
Dave, it was a pleasure.
That's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Shelf. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow. And feel free to share us with your colleagues so they too can hear weekly perspectives from the brightest minds in e-commerce. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, where we post clips from each episode, share Dave's takes on breaking industry news, and much more. Beyond the Shelf is a production of It's Rapid. Our host is Dave Feinlieb, and our producers are Sean Levy-Ashvili and Jake Musiker. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Shelf.